Let's talk about the Pittsburgh Steelers and a disappointing defeat to the Las Vegas Raiders, who granted are 2-0. I'm going to beat Baltimore and Pittsburgh back-to-back. But it's a league where anyone can beat any team basically in any given week. I felt like Pittsburgh really should have won this game, though. They lost 26-17. Let's just go over some takeaways from this game. This offensive line is bad, by the way. This Pittsburgh offensive line is just bad. There's no other way to say it. And you have been defending the offensive line, you just haven't watched the games. I'm sorry, but this offensive line is objectively bad. The reason why Ben isn't sacked more is because he releases the ball so quickly. He's getting the ball out without giving a chance for the other team to come up and maybe make a play on it. That's why his average up the target was so low last year. That's why it's probably going to end up being pretty low at the end of the season as well. Najee Harris, 3.8 yards per carry and 10 carries. This guy is not going to be the fantasy star some people thought they would be in fantasy football. I don't know why people were drafting him very high. The idea was that, he'll get all these touches. Why? Why would you do that? Because he's going to average between probably 2.5 to probably 3.8. It's probably the ceiling, actually, in terms of yards per carry, per game. Why would you run the ball like that 10, 15, 20 plus times a game when you're going to be able to throw it and be more efficient throwing the ball? I mean, seriously. Like, Najee Harris and his offense, it's not Najee's fault, by the way. I'm not saying Najee Harris is a bad running back. I think he has the potential to be a really good running back. But this offensive line can't run block. It just can't. And I'm not saying that's everyone's fault in that offensive line. There are pieces up there that can work. But collectively as a unit, it doesn't. So this running game is terrible. And by the way, that's what we were all saying. When people were saying drafting a running back in the first round for Pittsburgh made no sense, this is why. Because all those people who are defending drafting a running back now are like, I can't believe the running game's not working well. No, duh. The offensive line is not good. And they used 2 picks in the draft on offensive line. I get it. On Dan Moore Jr., I think it was the 4th round pick. Kendrick Green's in the 3rd round. I get it. They addressed the offensive line. And I will admit, that pick that Pittsburgh Steelers had in the first round, I don't know who they would have taken along the offensive line that would have made sense for that pick. Christian Darrisaw went 1 pick earlier. I would have loved to have gotten him, but we haven't even seen him play this year yet. So I'm not going to go out and say there was clearly a better offensive lineman you should have taken there. I won't say that. Because Tevin Jenkins got hurt. He was another guy I was looking at, but he went in the 2nd round. He's hurt. He's probably going to miss the entire season. Again, Christian Darrisaw hasn't played yet. He went 1 pick before Pittsburgh went. So I won't say there was an obvious player people who missed on here. I won't say that. I just think that, again, drafting the running back before fixing the offensive line is just not the right way to look at the situation. And we've seen it clearly. We can't run the ball. We're a one-dimensional offense. This is a repeat of last year. Big Ben's arm is better. He gets some more shots downfield. I was very appreciative of some of the deep passes they had to Chase Claypool, to Deontay Johnson. I was appreciative of some of those big plays today or yesterday. I just don't know if he can do it consistently. Because there were some throws about this game where I was like, wow, that's uncharacteristic. The interception was awful. The interception that he threw should never have been in play. Should never have thrown that ball. That's a Ben throw from maybe 5 or 6 years ago. He's 5 or 6 years too old to be making that throw or trying to make that throw. And he should know that by now. So that interception was awful. That's on Ben. Overall, it wasn't a bad game. I mean, I like our receivers. You know I like the receivers. I'm so glad to hear the Deontay Johnson injury is not significant. Maybe he'll miss a game or 2, but that's not, like, in the grand scheme of things, in a 17-game season, missing 2 games for Deontay Johnson is not terrible, all the things considered, suffering the injury there in the last play of the game. Defensively, not a good day for the defense. Understandable, though, because, again, no Joe Hayden, no Stephon Tuitt, no Devin Bush Jr. Devin Bush and Joe Hayden both out with groin injuries. Stephon Tuitt, obviously, is going to miss the first couple of games of the season. T.J. Watt goes out early after looking very dominant early on in the game, gets a sack, and he suffers groin injury, so now he's gone as well. Tyson Alulu, I think it was a fractured ankle or broken ankle. I forget which one it was. Either way, he's probably going to be done for the year. Huge loss there, so our really good nose tackle's gone. Our 2 leading sack guards from last year, and Watt and Tuitt, are gone. Our top cover corner, and Joe Hayden's gone. And Minkah Fitzpatrick for the 2nd week in a row was not good. I understand everyone comes out to defend Minkah Fitzpatrick when talking about Pro Football Focus, saying he's the worst safety in the league. Guys, he was bad yesterday. He was bad in coverage. That one deep shot, he should have been on that one. Both defensive backs should never allowed it to happen. But Minkah Fitzpatrick was clearly too close to the line of scrimmage in that play. And he was not good yesterday. There were other plays as well. He's allowed almost as many yards in coverage this year as he allowed in the entirety of last season. He's 2 weeks into the season, by the way. He's allowed almost as many yards in coverage as he allowed all of last season. He's not going to be an All-Pro this year. He'll be lucky if he makes the Pro Bowl. based on 2 games so far. So Minkah Fitzpatrick, another slow start to the season, slower than last year and much worse than last year. Keep in mind, this is a guy who wants a contract extension eventually from Pittsburgh. TJ Watt, again, our best player, goes down now, misses most of the game. Cameron Hayward's still a beast, but it's harder for him to be impactful when you're losing so many pieces all around him. Alex Highsmith didn't have a bad game, but wasn't fantastic either. Same with Melvin Ingram. A good game, gets a sack, but not as impactful as I think he was in Buffalo. I understand his raw numbers might look better from this game, but I feel like he made more of an impact on a more limited snap count in Buffalo. And again, just the secondary. Outside of Joe Hayden and Minkah Fitzpatrick, ordinarily I would say Minkah Fitzpatrick, but not for this particular game. Ordinarily, outside of him and Joe Hayden, who do you trust in the secondary? I don't put a lot of faith in Sutton right now. I can't. Who else are you relying on in the secondary to make plays? Terrell Owens was much better last year than he was at any other point in his career. Hopefully that continues because I'd love to see him perform well. But are you really trusting James Pierre out there? I'm not. Joe Schobbert's a good linebacker. But he got burned in coverage a few times yesterday because you can't put Joe Schobert on Darren Waller. It would almost be advantageous to have Mike Hilton or Steven Nelson on this roster because then you might be able to not put a linebacker on a tight end. It's basically a wide receiver. But, you don't have those guys anymore. This cornerback depth chart is shot for the most part. Again, outside of Joe Hayden, there's no one I trust in the secondary other than Minkah Fitzpatrick ordinarily. So, yeah, offensive line, not good. Can't run the ball really at all. It's inefficient and doesn't make a lot of sense to run the ball. I understand the whole establish the run to make the pass easier. I get that, and it makes a lot of sense. But if you're going to run the entire game and average under 4 yards per carry, then it just doesn't make sense. What run are you establishing? If you are establishing a run that's under 4 yards per carry, you are being too inefficient. You're actually hurting your offense. So, can't run block, can't run the ball. Offensive line's not very good. The secondary's been bad and banged up. The defense is banged up, and I think that explains a lot of the issues yesterday. Just putting TJ Watt in the game alone, I don't think it would account for the 9-point difference. I don't think it would fix that. But it would certainly make the game closer, in my opinion. Because there's always a chance Watt's going to force a turnover or do something ridiculous. Because he's TJ Watt. When you have a top 10 player in the NFL like that, sometimes things happen. So you can always count on guys like him, Aaron Donald, sometimes Khalil Mack as well, just to go out there and make a ridiculous play that changes the game. But again, we didn't have that at the end of the game. So unfortunate. The loss just, again, frustrating, just from the fact that the offense, again, looks too similar to what it was last year, where you can't run the ball. And again, we were talking about this all offseason, the fact they could not run the ball. The offensive line was not very good, and they did not fix it. Surprise, surprise, guys. Drafting a running back in the first round didn't fix it. So that's an issue, and we've known that's an issue for a long time now. The passing game looks a little bit better. There's a few more deep shots, but again, I think last season, early in the year, they were doing that as well, especially to Chase Claypool, and then it all kind of fell apart as the year went on because Ben couldn't do it as often. He's also just not nearly accurate enough on some of those deep shots. So we'll see. Hopefully that's not the case this year. But again, the passing attack, get the ball out very quickly. It's a lot of short plays. Some longer ones, again, which I appreciate, but not as many as we're used to from the kind of offense. Ben's not back. He's not going to be back, guys. He is what he is at this point. But it's just a frustrating game. Because again, if we were healthy defensively, it's going to be a win. I feel very confident in that. Even though Derek Carr's on a tear, and Derek Carr's played very well, and so is Darren Waller, I feel very confident that we would have won that game. And for what it's worth, Darren Waller held to 5 catches for 65 yards and 7 targets. I mean, that's pretty good, considering how dominant he's been in recent games. It was the Henry Ruggs thing that killed us because, again, Henry Ruggs against a good secondary does not get more than maybe 1 catch for 30 yards or 2 catches for 40 yards. Maybe 2 for 50, I don't know. But the secondary for Pittsburgh was so depleted that they lined up so poorly that Henry Ruggs ends up having multiple career highs in this game. 5 receptions, 113 yards, and a touchdown, 7 targets. And again, against a good secondary, that never happens because he's just straight speeds guy. He doesn't have the full route tree like someone like Jerry Jeudy, who also was his former teammate. He doesn't have that, which is why he struggled so much last year, which is why he struggled throughout the majority of his career. But Pittsburgh, again, because their secondary, the way it's set up, the way the defense is playing, he was able to take advantage of that and have a career day. I don't really have much else to talk about, really. I'm just kind of keeping the camera on at this point. So I'm going to wrap it up. Cincinnati next week. Joe Burrow threw 3 picks almost back-to-back basically this past weekend, and still they barely lost to Chicago. That offense has a lot of firepower, and they had T. Higgins fumbles as well. But that offense has a lot of firepower. I mean, Jamar Chase seems to be the real deal. T. Higgins is probably going to be a 1,000-yard receiver for a couple seasons in his career. Tyler Boyd's been a 1,000-yard receiver a couple times in his career. Joe Mixon, obviously, had a couple big years in the past. The offensive line for Cincinnati is very banged up. It's very banged up. I want to take full advantage of that. If this defense front gets healthy, and hopefully, crossing our fingers, TJ Watt's going to be able to play. If our defense front is mostly healthy, minus obviously Tyson Ololu, who's not going to play the rest of the year, but everyone else is available, and Tua won't be there either. But if everyone else other than that is available, I think it's going to be a good game for that defensive front, and we're going to need it because the secondary, might not be better than this the rest of the year. But anyways, guys, thank you for tuning in. I'll talk to you all tomorrow.